The Man Who Escaped. Episode 1.
Edward Coke used to be an army officer, but he's in prison now. Every day is exactly the same for him. It's winter now, and Coke and all the other men get up at 6, when it's still cold and dark. They have breakfast at 6:30. Work begins at 7:30. Some of the men work in the prison factory, where they make mail bags, but Coke often works in the fields outside. The men have lunch at 12. Lunch lasts an hour, and then the men go back to work again. Dinner's at 6. Coke usually goes to the prison library after dinner and reads until 9:30. The lights go out at 10. The day is long, hard, and boring, and every man has a lot of time to think. They usually think about why they are there. Coke does. He always thinks about 2 men. One of the men is called Eric Masters. He used to be an army officer just like Coke. Coke knows that Masters has a lot of money now. The second man's name is Hugo. That's all Coke knows about him. Masters knows where and who Hugo is, but Coke doesn't. Every night Coke lies in bed and thinks about Eric Masters and Hugo. There's another thing he thinks about too. Escaping. He wants to escape and find Masters, and then the other man. Coke is in prison for something he didn't do.
The Man Who Escaped. Episode 2.
It is 6 o'clock on a very cold winter evening. All over England, people are sitting down in their living rooms and are watching the news on television or are listening to it on the radio. There is one very important piece of news this evening. It is this.
In the west of England this evening, hundreds of policemen are looking for a man who escaped from Princeville prison early this morning. The man's name is Edward Coke. He is 30 years old, 6 feet tall, and has black hair and blue eyes. He is wearing a dark blue prison uniform. The police do not think he can stay free very long. It is only a few degrees above zero, and it is snowing.
The radio is on in an expensive pub in Soho, in the centre of London. Most of the people there are not very interested in the news programme, but one man is. His name is Eric Masters. He is about 45 and is wearing very expensive clothes. He is looking very afraid of something. There is another man standing next to him at the bar. Masters is asking him a question.
Did they say the man's name was Coke?
Yes, that's right. Coke. Edward Coke. Why, do you know him?
Pardon?
Do you know him?
No, I don't know him. I just wanted to know the man's name, that's all.
In another part of London, a young detective is standing in the office of his chief at Scotland Yard. The young detective's name is Richard Baxter. You knew Coke, didn't you, Baxter?
Yes, sir. I arrested him 4 years ago.
Baxter's chief is nodding his head. Yes, I know that, Baxter. That's why I'm giving you this order now. Find Coke again. You must find him immediately.
The Man Who Escaped. Episode 3.
It's 6:30 in the evening now, and the wind's still blowing. It's getting colder. About 10 miles away from Princeville prison, a man's hiding in a field. The wind's cutting through his thin prison uniform like a knife. A dog's barking somewhere in the distance. Is it a police dog, perhaps? The man in the field doesn't know. There's only one idea in his mind at the moment. He must find food and some warm clothes. But where? 200 miles away in London, Baxter's train's standing at platform 9 in Paddington Station. Baxter's sitting in a comfortable compartment. There's another man opposite him. Baxter doesn't know the man, but he can see he wants to talk. The man's holding a newspaper in his hands.
I'll say someone escaped from Princeville prison this morning.
Oh, really?
Yes. Would you like to read about it? It's all here in the paper.
No, thank you.
The train is leaving the station now. Baxter's looking out of the window. You can see 1,000 bright lights in the windows of pubs, cafes, houses and flats. Everywhere people are sitting down to warm meals and hot cups of tea. The world looks warm and comfortable. The man opposite Baxter is still talking.
The paper says the man was a spy. He gave important military secrets away. I hope the police catch him.
Yes, so do I.
The Man Who Escaped. Episode 4. A young detective, Richard Baxter, arrested Coke 4 years ago. Coke escaped from prison because he wanted to find 2 men, Eric Masters and someone called Hugo. That was all Coke knew about the